Good afternoon and welcome to our WSABE 2014 webinar series. Today's theme is Excellence in Sustainability, brought to you by Champion Legal. I'm here today with David Hill, National Training Manager at ARC Group Training. I know David very well from serving on the board of the Parramatta Chamber of Commerce, but what a lot of people don't realise is that David also has a vocational graduate certificate in Education for Sustainability, which is quite a mouthful, but you can shorten it to EFS. Anyway, in sustainability circles, that's supposed to be very impressive. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Michelle. It's great to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in sustainability then?
Okay, I previously had a life working for the government as a Director at Environment and Conservation, and looked after sustainability projects, including a lot of helping organisations with issues around waste management and the waste fund, getting access to funds for programs in businesses, and also helping people to overall upgrade their more sustainable lifestyle and their way of doing business in a sustainable way.
Excellent. So today our WSABE webinar series is all about helping the small businesses out there and bigger businesses that would like to apply for our WSABE Awards. We've got a bit of an agenda today. We'll go over the key dates coming up for the WSABE 2014 Awards. We'll go through some ideas for excellence and sustainability and how you might think about entering. We'll talk a little bit about your entry and inspiration and sharing knowledge. Key dates, of course, we had our first sponsors meeting over a week ago, and today is April 2nd, our event launch at Dooley's, and I believe the Premier, Barry O'Farrell, will be joining us, which is very exciting.
Fantastic. It should be great. Great to see government supporting this. Good to see that sustainability is on the agenda.
Isn't that good? Of course, the most important key dates are entries open on May 1 and entries close June 26. The WSABE webinar series will be hosted all the way through this period to help inspire you and provide information on entering the WSABE 2014 Awards. So, excellence in sustainability. We've certainly got a great example in Parramatta with our 2013 winner, Dive Action Scuba Warehouse, Judith McDonald, also Businesswoman of the Year a number of years running. She's very successful in implementing a number of sustainability endeavours, and I think what we'll be doing, because she was unable to make it today, is see if she can contribute to our WSABE forum and give us a bit of hints and tips on why Scuba Warehouse has been so successful in this category. In the interim though, we're going to go through a couple of the key questions that are in our entry form for 2014. The first one being all about your business, the environmental sustainability goals. So what sort of goals should businesses be thinking about clarifying in their entry, David, to be a winner in this category?
Thanks, Michelle. Sustainability is something which people shouldn't be afraid of. Businesses in general generate about a third of the waste that we actually produce in this country. It's about a third of a tonne per person on average, just with business waste. So it's a relatively easy thing for us to understand when you start thinking about the amount of sheer solid waste that we produce. If you think about the amount of water that we all use, the amount of energy that we use, there's lots of different areas that organisations can get involved. I'll just run through a few things with you, Michelle. The first one here really is, if you're considering your organisation, think about the materials flow. Think about the kind of goods that come through the front door and how they leave out the other end when either somebody purchases them or they take kind of control over what's going on. One of the concepts we use in the area of sustainability a lot is this idea of cradle to grave, the idea of thinking where things come from and how they get disposed of at the end. A good outcome, obviously, is if you have something for a very long period of time. And if you don't waste things, if you look after them for a long period of time, that's called, the very best thing, it's called avoiding waste. Can be the same with energy as well. The best thing to do is not to use too much energy in the first place, to buy things that use less energy, or indeed to have a designed business which doesn't require a large amount of energy. So those are the things that really you would be given the most marks for, which is you've actually got a business that deliberately contributes to avoiding waste of all kinds in the first place. So you don't use up too much water, you don't use up too much energy, and you actively avoid things like packaging waste. And there's some great examples out there, things like the company Sharp actually deliver a lot of their products now in packages which they bring into the office, then they take the packaging away and use it again over and over and over again. So there are some very simple things that we can do, which is about not generating a problem in the first place. Also, some businesses, as part of their manufacturing or a part of their processing, actually generate some waste. That waste need not necessarily be thrown away. It could be used as an input into somebody else's business. So if you've got a situation where, say, for example, you've got offcuts from what you do, it could be materials, it could be wood, it could actually be somebody else's input, and it could be the basis of somebody else's business. So that would be given very high marks and is a very sustainable outcome. Putting the right people together so that one person's waste is another person's input materials is a fantastic outcome. The other really simple things to do is to look at the amount of energy used. In general, we use an enormous amount of energy, not just in terms of lighting and heating and cooling, but whenever we buy something, because there's what's called embodied energy in all of the materials that we use. So you need to think about energy more broadly than the way we have in the past, which is just that energy bill that comes through the front, comes through in the post. We also can think about things like the kind of systems that you have in place inside your organization. You might have a purchasing system whereby you would favor things which have a recycled content. That would be seen as a very positive initiative. Or you might do things like commingled recycling systems inside your organization. Say, for example, you had a restaurant. You might collect the waste cans or the waste even the waste food, and have that processed into something else. That could be an input, a food stock for cattle in the local area. It could be something like that. Not that there's that many cattle in Parramatta, Michelle.
Well, I guess this is where we've got some great examples out there of these goals at work. So a company like Reverse Garbage over at Marrickville, so a lot of maybe Western Sydney businesses could be looking at how some of the items that they have as offcuts in their business or waste could be donated to local schools for recycling in projects. I know that here at Champion Legal we're installing some new photocopiers that are all 100% recycled materials. Very exciting. And certainly our landlord has taken care of the building by installing lights that are motion sensitive. So
Brilliant.
There's lots of different business initiatives that people are doing out there. Perhaps it's just a matter of clarifying it in terms of this entry. And if you are thinking of entering in different categories and hadn't thought about sustainability, perhaps put the sustainability hat on for an entry. It doesn't cost you anything or really much more time and effort to perhaps rework your entry into a multiple number of categories, and I would hardly encourage people out there to do that. So some more specific examples, we need to show the initiatives and actions that people have achieved over time. So I believe the period of time for the entries is 12 to 24 months. So it's a fair whack of time there that we've got to explore, and things do take time to get off the ground. So people shouldn't be scared that it's the early stages of a project, for example. What sort of actions have you seen around Parramatta and the Western Sydney area, David, that you can give examples for the people out there?
Well, Parramatta's been very good. We actually have the head office of the Office of Heritage and Environment located here in the centre of Parramatta. So all of the decisions made about what's happening in terms of working with businesses happens right out of the centre of our, right near the train station, actually. It's a great thing that we've got it here. And I'd also encourage people to go onto the website of the Office of Environment and Heritage, because there's a lot of great pamphlets there and a lot of great initiatives where people can actually very easily find out how, for example, to set up a recycled paper system inside their office, to know where to go in terms of getting the information so that they still get a decent product and they know what they're doing. The other thing I really want to encourage people to do is to very simple bit of philosophy or learning for this stuff is to look at something called a waste hierarchy. That's for all those people out there that like to understand something which drives some thinking here. And that's really about saying that there are some things that we do which are better than other things. You might see, for example, the idea that buying recycled content is good. And yes, it is a very good thing, but sometimes you're better off not wasting something in the first place. So I'll just use that as an example in terms of the things you could be thinking about in your office. For example, if you're thinking about renovating, you don't have to necessarily remove everything from the office. If you were to only replace the bits that needed replacing, that would be a good example of not generating a massive amount of waste and problems in the first place. Sorry, Michelle, just talking a little bit, getting back to that question, which is really about things that are happening around here. So we have a lot of commingled recycling systems available here in Parramatta. A lot of people, if you want, for example, to have all of your paper, all you've got to do is sort it at the desk and to put it into a waste, normally they're the blue top bins. Lots of different suppliers actually supply into the Parramatta area. They will normally come along and pick up that paper at a very low cost. Normally there's a fairly good saving for organisations if they make the simple decision to separate out their paper waste as opposed to their other waste, and that's a very, very good outcome for the environment.
So that's the key word there, I think, decision. It's making that decision of what you would like to achieve for your business and in your business in regards to sustainability. So initiatives and actions, what are you going to be doing in 12, 24 months? So even if you're at the early stage of your sustainability initiative, don't neglect this category for your awards entry. Of course, you need to have some achievements over time. If I could illustrate, David, if you don't mind me hogging the limelight for Champion Legal.
Cool.
One of the things that we have had going on our outdoor balcony, for those chamber members who may have attended our events in the past, is our edible garden. So we obviously had an initiative, an action of creating a sustainable vegetable garden on our balcony to feed our staff and to use for events. And one of the achievements over time that we've been able to do, that we'd love to enter into the awards, but unfortunately as a sponsor we can't do so, was to then supply this food for various events, including TEDx Sydney in May 2013. So there's a good illustration of it being practical, but maybe not related to your core business. But still, the health benefits and the staff engagement benefits to our organisation have been really worthwhile. And I think all the visitors to our office appreciate getting their takeaway herbs as well. So
fantastic idea, Michelle. And I just want to encourage everybody to not be afraid of the word sustainable. It really is sometimes the very simple things that we can do, and sometimes very logical and practical things. Things which are, yes, if you can grow your own fruit and veg in your own garden and have that as part of your life, you've actually saved an enormous amount of diesel, you've saved an enormous amount of water being used, and you've actually done something good in terms of making the soil in your garden better. So really encourage that. I think your outcome there is fantastic. Obviously, we want to see the worm farm working as well. You've got one of them, have you, Michelle?
Oh, we will soon, no doubt. Certainly got some good herbs out there. But I guess that's a very public achievement we've achieved out of our garden. It doesn't have to be as public. If you've set your goals early on and your intentions and then you've achieved them, then that's all the judges really need to see. How do you involve staff in your environmental initiatives? Well, obviously with our garden, we've got a couple of really great gardeners in our firm. Kathy Case in accounts for one. She's one of the green thumbs, and so is our managing partner, Jeffrey Robertson. He was over in the summer replanting a number of things. So there's different ways that you can get them involved. We've also got a great girl, Annette, who makes sure that we're buying the right recycling and the right quantities, so that, you know, materials, so that we don't have excessive supplies in our office. Of course, as Champion Legal, we're always looking for local producers as well who can assist us, whether it be buying from the local print shop or purchasing from the local bottler rather than, you know, something that's trucked in to our office. So there's lots of little things that you can do to involve your staff and give them empowerment. What other ideas have you got for our business audience, David?
Michelle, at ARC Training, where I work, we've got our own green team, and what that's about is about saying that everybody can be involved and everybody's ideas can be useful. In fact, usually the best ideas are the ones that come from people that work for you, because they're the ones making decisions on a daily basis. So we've done things like introduce paper recycling. We've also introduced systems whereby we print on previously printed material for draft where we have to. Of course, we try not to print at all. We remind everybody else in an email that goes out that they shouldn't be printing unless they have to. Doing a whole lot of really simple things in the office, but you know what? That's fantastic. The other thing we do is we make sure we have local food lunches, and they're really about saying, yep, you've got to make a little bit of effort, you've got to find some food that is grown locally, and you make sure you bring that together, and we celebrate that. We celebrate local food. So that's another nice little idea. Getting your staff involved is about making sure you get people who have a little bit of passion for this, that actually want to do the right thing by the environment. Encourage them. Give them a bit of an opportunity, and I do recommend you go to that website, the government website, where they have all the flyers about what to do and how to do this, and they can give everybody the ideas to make their systems work inside the office.
Fantastic. So measuring, this is often where people might get stuck, I would think, with their application. They might have all these great ideas and initiatives, and maybe you have achieved, but how do you measure your achievements and your impacts in sustainability, David?
I think that there's some fairly easy ones here. One of the easy ones is obviously energy use. If you find you have your lights turned off, or you turn off your computers at the end of the day or at the end of the week, you also may not use the same level of heating. You might have the heating set a little less extreme, and the same for the air conditioning. You can actually see that change in your energy bill. And so that's the kind of thing that I do encourage people to report on. And the kind of savings that people are getting are really sometimes in the order of 20 or 30%, really just by making some simple decisions about how to manage the machinery inside your existing building. Also, looking at things like paper and waste, people actually do have a pretty good idea of the amount of rubbish that's generated, because somebody is actually paying the bill to have commercial waste disposed of. So if you can actually have that instead of it going into the big ugly green bin and put into the blue bin instead, and that costs you about maybe 1/10 of the amount to have it disposed of, and you know you're doing the right thing, there's a big cost saving there, and you can actually measure that in terms of tonnage. There's actually a state government program which will help you with that, and they will actually come along and help you analyse the kind of things that you can do very simply in terms of fixing up what goes into bins. And you'd be surprised at how much stuff that we currently waste, Michelle, which is really could go into a recycling bin very simply. In fact, a 3-bin system is probably the best. One for your paper and cardboard, or just pure paper, depending on the kind of waste that you might generate in your office or your building or business. Another bin for commingled recycling, if you've got anything like glass or aluminium. That can be sorted out somewhere else, but it can go into one particular container to be taken away. And then your waste bin. And I strongly encourage you to have very small waste bins so that people then make the effort to make sure they put the things into the right other bins. Depending on your business might produce a whole lot of a specific kind of waste. You can do something with that normally, and that can actually have some really good outcomes. Normally measured in terms of tonnes, can also be measured in terms of litres if we're talking water. A bit more difficult to measure water usage, but now that we all have to pay for water, it's getting better. And particularly, it's a bit about the kind of systems you may have installed in your office or in your business. For example, waterless urinals have come a long way now. They no longer smell so bad, which is fantastic. Things like stopping people from putting water-saving devices onto taps, just as a matter of course, usually ends up with some really fantastic outcomes. And you can predict what some of those outcomes will be and include them in your application.
Fantastic. So measuring evidence. So as you've discussed, taking a look at bills from previous years, so perhaps enlisting your local bookkeeper who assists you with your business to help you measure, getting your staff engaged on that level. But how do you measure that contribution to the wider community?
Yeah. To the wider community is really going back to that issue of understanding the materials flowing into your organisation and how they flow out again. Ultimately, it's about thinking about the big picture. What role does your business have in your community? And please don't underestimate it. Businesses really are responsible for a very large amount of the environmental outcomes that actually happen in our society, and we need to take some degree of responsibility for that. Sometimes it's some very simple things. For example, if you're running a fleet of cars and you give people a car as a matter of course, then what you're ultimately doing is you're encouraging the use of cars and discouraging the use of public transport. Simple method is to give people a choice. Given a choice, a lot of people would happily get on the public transport system, which is much, much better for our overall community. If we think about things like how we manage our paper flowing through, well, we're simply not filling up massive holes in and around Sydney and causing massive problems in terms of putrescence. That is the amount of off-gassing that happens off these things. So methane is a very, very bad gas in terms of what it does to our environment, but also things like leachate. That's the material that flows through under the ground after things have been sitting in the large holes that are really our waste facilities around New South Wales. And it's about stopping that whole thing from happening, at least reducing the amount of stuff. It's particularly bad if we mix things like our organics And about half of our waste is organic, so what's left over lunch and leftover stuff that we throw out of the fridge, we mix that with things that are coming out of our machines and things, we end up with some really toxic leachates. If you can show that we're not doing that, we're not putting, for example, our organics in with the rest of that stuff, and we're choosing to recycle or reuse, that's a really massive change in terms of what's happening in the community. I think we can encourage people to talk in terms of tonnes. We can encourage people to actually talk in terms of, if you do a life cycle analysis, and there are life cycle analyses of most goods these days, including the stuff that maybe you produce. It could be the wrapping that you use, or it could be the particular item. There's a life cycle analysis. If you look it up on the CSIRO site, that's the CSIRO site, they will give you an idea of how much water, how much waste goes into the sky, how much waste is generated in terms of actually creating something in the first place. Just remember, if you buy all of your primary goods from overseas, that means that we're pumping diesel into ships so that they can simply move them from one part of the world to the other. Simply by sourcing locally, you will have saved a huge amount of particulates and pollution from going into our skies. It is as simple as that.
That transport issue is a big issue in sustainability. I guess some of the businesses out there might even think about how their workforce operates. So if they allow people to work from home, then that can be a sustainable achievement, can't it? They
absolutely
are logging in and using technology. So, yeah, there's lots of different options there. I know that OzHarvest is doing great things out there, working with restaurants. So if there's restaurants out there in Western Sydney who are contributing to OzHarvest and other cafes and food businesses, they should definitely look at entering this award. I'm sure that would be great to measure that contribution in terms of a WSABE 2014 award.
Fantastic, Michelle. I really encourage people to look at the idea of social sustainability as well, which means that as businesses we can actually help out the people in our community that need help. So yeah, really encourage you to think more broadly about what this idea of sustainability is and read a little bit about this notion of social sustainability. It's actually about our responsibility, what we do.
Excellent. Okay, well that comes to the end of our sustainability discussion. So thank you very much, David. We've got lots of great ideas there, having a green team for your workplace, thinking about your waste hierarchy, the life cycle of the products that you make or even the service that you offer. So thank you very much. Of course, don't forget the benefits of entering into the WSABE Awards. Great opportunities to promote your business, and we'd love to be profiling the winner of 2014 at next year's WSABE webinar series. Your entry. We've covered a number of the questions today. So if you've got any questions about some of these ideas that we've discussed, please feel free to share those questions and specific questions about your entry on our Facebook page. So if you've already registered an expression of interest, you'll be given access to a WSABE support forum. If you've not yet expressed an interest and you're being shared this webinar, please by all means go and register your expression of interest for WSABE 2014. There's the form that you need to fill in. And then head over to Facebook and we'll add you on. And there's some great questions coming along the side at the moment, and we've been enjoying answering them, and we look forward to sharing more of those in our webinar next week. Don't forget, webinars every Wednesday from 4 p.m. until close of entries. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing from our aspiring entrants and winners.
Thanks, Michelle.